Okay.
Hello.
Well, let's just stand here and stare at the screen.
It's nice to see you after all these months.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
talk a lot. But usually we're meeting like once a week or so at least, right? If we're not
right.
in
But
school.
yeah, I'm screen sharing, but not seeing your face, and it's nice to see you.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, generally since this sheltering in place began, we don't turn on our cameras, right?
I know it's just been really tough, and it's so. What happened when the shelter in place happened? I paint in a greenhouse at a local farm, which has been gorgeous. I've been there for about 5 years. And when the shelter in place happened, they told me, I'm sorry, but we're not having anybody come in to the farm, only picking up at the curb, because they sell organic produce and vegetables, and then they have plants in their glorious greenhouse. So that kind of, for me, big easel painting was stopped. And then I'm doing watercolor and drawing in a room in our house in a basement, but I've been innovated in it. Having little sugar ants coming in the window. Every time I pick up a paper, there would be more ants. So I've been working on that and thinking. I've been taking the time to think. I just finished a second large series of paintings actually last September. And it's taking me a while to just really process what I want to do differently. And in some ways, the sheltering in place is not that much different for me in lifestyle, because I enjoy time alone and
Nor me. I'm
thinking,
pretty much the same too. Yeah.
right. But I do miss being able to go to the museums or the gallery to see what's happening at Michael Zakin or Dick Blick, to actually look at and touch paper and art supplies. So that's really affected me that way.
Yeah, and I do a lot of portraits, and that all got shut down.
Right, right. And
I've been figuring out how to do that, even with the sheltering in place. There must be a way. Just use a long lens
a long lens. Well,
and do everything
actually,
outdoors.
if you're 6 feet away, you could meet in a park or on someone's back deck. And I think that people are getting more comfortable with, if you know someone and you know they've been pretty careful, meeting with them at a distance. I visited someone yesterday for the first time on her back deck, and it was a large round table and everybody sat several feet apart. I could imagine doing that because I know them and I know they've been careful too, but it's been,
Even that would make me nervous. But
I understand. It's been a really strange time. I
one
told
would sneeze and everybody's going to run.
I know if you want to cut the line short at the grocery store, just sneeze. Oh, you'd probably be arrested. I don't know. But it's been a cross between Groundhog Day and 1984. It's just been so strange. But anyway, back to, we were talking in the past that we have a lot of connections in our development, which is interesting to me. Hank,
Well,
you said
we have a lot of things that are almost in sync.
right.
Maud and Brent were out in the Southwest until 1985, till the end of 84, right? In the same area where I went to live with a Hopi in 1985. So
right.
And
In 84, I was there until mid 84, and
right.
Then but we
the
had
Four Corners area.
Right.
Which of course I forgot to grab some pictures of to show here. So, but I lived with a Hopi in 85 to 87, and visited a lot of the spots and photographed a lot of the spots that Brent was working as an archaeologist, and that you were there.
I went with him on some, and I would do some of my art in my journals, and the light and the sky just very different for the Northeast. And
you can see the horizon.
You can see the horizon.
360-degree view of the horizon. And if a storm's coming in 125, 150 miles away, you have a very good view of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Unlike here.
I actually did photography a lot. for a long time. And I tried doing darkroom photography in Arizona, but it was so dusty, I gave that up. And I just kept taking pictures and having them printed. And then when Photoshop and Adobe were available, I found I could do printing, but not to the degree that Brent does. That Hank does. He's a master at the new darkroom, so to speak, online. And it's amazing.
And you've taken my workshop, my printing workshop.
I have taken your workshop,
Yeah.
and I found, I guess a few years ago, I decided I had to choose really between doing as much photography as I do or painting. And I had some big projects I was working on, and I also just knew energy level and it was just hard to sustain both of them at that intensely. So for me it was, and I had to empty my iPhone because I have 10,000 photos on it, and I use it for a lot for reference.
Now you just need a bigger iPhone.
I need a bigger iPhone.
I'm gonna share my screen just now because Maud and I hang out together, so I just want to show you how that works out. So, and why. So hold on a second here, let me find it. Now this I've done all the time in GoToMeeting, but not so much here. So where is it? Oh, try this. Can you see my screen?
No, I just see you.
Oh, you're not seeing my screen. Okay, hold on a second. Let me get to Maud, and we'll see how this works out. Still only see me, right?
I still only see you.
This is not working well at all. Okay, messages. I'm not seeing my screen. This is a totally new format for me.
New format. So we should just keep talking and maybe post what you're going to share on Facebook if it doesn't come up right now. Are you able to work right now? I'm curious. I've been having a difficult time, even though it seems like, oh, all this time on my own, and I make plans, but it seems that I'm inundated with the practical matters of what to do with the groceries when I get them home, and cleaning them and using gloves and mask, and it seems to take a lot of time. Oh, you managed it. Okay.
Is that you? You can
Yes,
see
that's
me?
me.
Oh, you can see you. Okay.
I took this photograph of me.
Okay, so this is like when I'm hanging out at Maud's house, I'll say, oh, gee, Maud, I really like this corner, and I like your painting, but I got to put you in it. So, so Maud says, oh, I really don't want this area photographed. I said, oh, no, trust me, it'll work out. And then I said, and have you got a nice pastel top? And she said, oh, good, dig one up. And then she said to me, oh, the light's really nice, streaming in really strongly this afternoon. Why don't you come over? I said, no, I don't want it to stream in. I want a nice soft light. So then I ran back over there on a nice overcast day like today. And that's when I set this up, and she trusted me. And I remember I love the Matisse overhead, right?
Right. It was a mobile I made.
Mobile, and I had a stick, and I kept whacking it to say, let it turn around to the point where I like it, and then I would snap. So.
And the hat that's on the easel was an old hat of my grandfather's.
And you wanted to remove that hat. I said, oh, no, the hat's okay. So it's fun. It's a found thing. I'm always ending up using Maud as a subject, which drives her crazy, because we get together at Starbucks for coffee, and I'm going, well, hang on, Maud. Let's just take a break for a minute and go take a picture. Oh, do we really have to? I haven't done my hair, or you could drag me out of bed because it's 9 o'clock in the morning, So anyway, this is in a class. So I ended up having Maud pose for the class. And this is my shot, but actually the students got a better shot. I was setting this up for the students. And I happened to be walking back to a light, and I saw this and snapped it real quickly, but one of my other students got a much better shot than this. But we were doing Rembrandt lighting in Maud. condescended to pose for a Rembrandt lighting situation. And then this is her at her New Milford solo show. Again, this was not set up, right? We didn't intend on shooting this.
No, you just came to see the show, and
Yeah.
and it was great to have the memory of that show. It was my first major show. The gallery was beautiful at the Art Center in Northern New Jersey and in Milford, and it was just really an amazing experience to see all the art up in one place.
And I think there's another shot of that here. And what we did actually is, since there are no windows here, we came in late at night one night, and I digitized all of her canvases. So basically, Brent and Nicole walked with me with lights on stands. And we placed them on each, positioning them on each side of each canvas, and I would take the pictures and move on to another one. We digitized every one of these canvases on a single night, which was great. They're all hanging in place, so
it was amazing. Yes,
it was actually a lot of fun to do too. And then this is one of our Starbucks shots. But Maud doesn't even get to drink her tea before I say, yeah, you got to stand over here at this wall. Really? Do I have to? So, and this is, Maud and I go to, and Nicole go to museums together whenever possible, because we just like to see other people's art. So this is the John Singer Sargent show at the Brooklyn Museum. This is very exciting, the Sargent watercolors. So.
That was a wonderful show.
Yeah.
I'm leaning in because when you actually see art in a museum, you can see how it's done. You can see how the washes, and if there's pencil work, and then other artists, sometimes we'd be all three or four heads together saying, how do you think he did that? And someone would say, well, I think that he did this as a wet wash and then dry brush. But it was an amazing show, spectacular work, and so much in one place.
Yeah. And of course, if I can figure out how to get Maud in the shot and make a good shot out of it, I'll never take a chance. So.
Hank is the only one that I actually trust to photograph me. My mom used to make me pose. She was an amazing artist, but from a young age, she would have me pose, and she'd say, no, you have to hold still. And she'd say, even your eyelashes are moving. So I would start to get so stiff when I'm posing. But Hank arrived with Nicole that day, and he photographed in my house, and she was incredible. She just talked to me and distracted me, and all of a sudden I'm aware that he's snapping pictures away, but
yeah, no,
they were quite a team. And that's gorgeous.
The other thing is that Maud and I like to either paint or shoot flowers. So I set this up for my students all the time, and Maud's always lending me the flowers. Or she has allowed me, or talked to Old Hook Farm, where she does a lot of her canvases. And I guess I'm the only photographer allowed in there at this point. So
people might snap photographs, but they're kind of protective of the greenhouse. And
right. So I'm allowed in the inner sanctum with a tripod. So
right.
A lot of these things I take advantage of the wonderful lighting at Old Hook Farm, and because Maud has introduced me to them. So and I do really quick hit and runs. She's in there with her canvas, and it's really hot in there. Like, I don't know how she stands it for several hours. I'll get in there for half an hour. I'll be soaking wet, and I'll get one or two good shots. I'll say I'll be back, tomorrow or the next day. And Maud will stay on for several hours, but it's well over 100 degrees and very high humidity. So anyway, a lot of these are flowers from Old Hook. And, Nicole and I kill flowers faster than anybody. I don't know, I can never keep flowers alive. So it's wonderful to be able to borrow flowers from Maud, photograph them and get them back to her before I've killed them. Or at least, just take them off a shelf at Old Hook, set them up and photograph them, and then they live another day without me killing them. So anyway, these are
amazing. You should talk about how you do these. It's not just a snapshot.
That's true. I mean, even though I'm only there for half an hour, it's an intricate process. So this is 129 images, very thin layers of focus, very shallow focus. So I'm working at a fairly wide aperture with my camera, and I'm starting at the very back of the flower. I don't know whether you can see my arrow, but it's way at the back, and I can see where the focus is. I've got a setting there that makes this become very high contrast, and I'll keep photographing one at a time, another one, all the way to all the way at the front. And then I have special software which combines all these images and tosses out everything that's soft. So it's a very shallow depth of field for each shot. But when you throw out all the soft parts of each image and compile them, you end up with these incredibly sharp images. I mean, this is
They're amazing. Look
just
at that.
the amethyst is only maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches across.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then you print them big. So
Yeah,
you get to see this amazing detail. And I never saw anything quite like it. And I mean, a lot of people think if they have this iPhone, they're a photographer and they're taking some great shots. But when you see work like this, there's so much more into it that you can go with.
Yeah, this is a little cactus I found at Old Hook, and this flower here is only about 1/4 inch. So
wow.
And again, it was just natural light at Old Hook coming through the skylight above. So that Old Hook farm is a treasure trove, and they have all this junk in the back. I'm dying to get back there to do a still life of that. I haven't.
Antiques, yes, they've been collecting antiques for a long time.
Yeah,
it's an interesting place, but
it
their
is.
flowers and their plants in their greenhouse are so amazing. And in the winter, like when everything is sort of gray, I love being in there. In the summer, after it goes over 100, they allow me to go in the back of the store, and it's not so hot.
Yeah. I feel badly that I can't bring my TASIC students in there. There's just no way.
No, you know, they've had people come and it's difficult.
Yeah.
And they can't trust that everybody's going to be as careful. So, and I've known them for a long time.
Right. So Mud was my introduction to them, and it's been great being able to shoot in there. And
anyway.
Yeah. I barely have touched the potential of that place, really. This is Old Hook as well.
It's really amazing.
Yeah. Again, these are all these focus stacked images that I do there. Thank God I'm able to do them quickly. So anyway, let me switch off my screen sharing. I have more, but I don't want to hog the scene.
I thought it was interesting when we were talking before that one of your mentors, Ernst Haas, that's how you pronounce it.
Right.
He had a book called Creation that was out in the 70s, or I think 70s. And
70s, yeah. I have several copies of it. I got copies of it all over the place.
Wow. Anyway, I found a photograph when I was in school in Boulder, Colorado, in I think 70 maybe, and it was of a meadow with a tree in it, and I loved it so much I copied it and I had it on my wall for several years. And then later, much later, I started doing series of meadow paintings. And I'm
just looking to see if I have it right here. Well, I mean, we discussed that one just the other day, actually.
Right, but it was interesting to me that we had these connections.
Yeah, because Ernst was my mentor, and he's the one that talked me into doing my Four Corners project, to pack up and leave my Manhattan photography business to do 3 years of photography in the desert Southwest.
I wondered what took you out there. Yeah.
Well, I was going out there for a lot of reasons, but you know, it's one of these things that you can say, I'm going to do it one day, and I kept saying that, and then he said to me in 1983, well, geez, do it now. I mean, why wait till one day? And
right.
I got a successful business in New York. He says there'll always be an excuse not to do it.
Yes, and it's a big change. When I went out to, I met my husband when I was in school in Boulder, and he grew up in Colorado, and then he started becoming an archaeologist, and I would go out on fields with him. but it was like another country, and so different than the Northeast.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you working on now, Hank, or anything? I
Uh,
haven't been for a while.
I know, but you know what? Nicole's niece just sent us some azaleas, so I'm getting ready to photograph them today.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm just
Very
trying to keep them alive until
nice.
I can shoot
Well,
them.
it's like a plant. Azaleas are like
Yeah,
a
it's a whole plant. Yeah.
so you should be able to manage to keep that for a while,
No, not
at least a few days.
I am the Grim Reaper as far as the flowers are concerned.
Oh,
I'm the Mitch
well,
McConnell of plants.
you photograph them so amazingly well. They live on indefinitely.
Yeah. Well, you know, I just discovered that a neighbor of mine in an apartment down the hallway has a great garden out on his deck. So I'm
Wow.
going to see if I can work a deal with him where I can borrow a plant for a day, you know, get it right back to him and take another one. So.
Wow. Or
And
maybe if you
I've been tempted to actually post on the Independence Harbor Facebook page, can I borrow plants or can you give me one flower to photograph? Something like that.
Oh, I have these peonies. I just got some peonies this morning from Whole Foods that are so stunning. I wish you could have one.
Yeah, me too.
They're this
You know
coral
me, I love
color.
peonies, especially since they were, for the longest time, I didn't realize that those were the flowers that George O'Keeffe painted best. I thought
Oh,
that it was actually, I thought it was poppies, I guess. And then I discovered, no, these are peonies that she
it was
painted.
poppies too.
Yeah.
That big red, that
Right.
was poppies. Amazing. But
But
anyway,
you know, if we weren't having this lockdown, you would say to me, "Come and get it," or "Let's meet somewhere, and I'll lend it to you," or you know.
well, I can meet you halfway with gloves and hand it to you
Yeah.
if you want. We could meet at the school parking lot.
Don't tempt me. I better photograph these azaleas first, though. But you know, you remember like just before the lockdown, you and I were going nuts getting peonies. You remember? I'd say to
I
you,
remember.
"Oh,
I
the
know.
Whole Foods has great peonies today."
Actually, the one it was anemones.
Oh, yes, right. It was
Anemones, for
anemones.
some
Right.
reason,
It was
they
anemones. Yes.
appear
No, it
like
wasn't
2
peonies. It
days.
was anemones. Right.
Anemones.
Yeah.
Love those. Those are
And
gorgeous.
I meant those were what George O'Keeffe painted so beautifully with the anemones, especially
They
the
are
dark
amazing.
ones.
Yeah.
And I have
So,
yet to get really good pictures of them because by the time I got mine set up here, they were not in good enough shape to photograph. So I got to keep at it.
right.
But I'm not going into any store, so I'm having a hard time getting them now, of course.
It's difficult.
Yeah. But that's what really excites me now. I mean, granted, I can't do my portraits now, but I can certainly do flowers, and I need to get back to them.
Right. Definitely. And
And basically, I'll do a portrait of a flower. I mean, it might take me several days to get one flower done, but
you must have
flowers got to have patience.
you must have neighbors that shop at Whole Foods that would leave them at your door for you.
Yes, I have to start requesting that actually, but I have to be very specific. I actually don't know what Whole Foods has in stock right now.
They could send a picture to you on their phone.
Yeah.
I've become so tech dependent, and now I find I'm going back to more just drawing and painting from life, because I will use a lot of reference when I'm doing a large painting. I take a lot of photographs for it. I paint from life, and also memory, dream. I mean, I put it all together. And when I'm working on a large scale, like when I'm at the farm. So
yeah, we do like to work on large scale, both of us, like really to work big.
Yes, I know. So I'm doing these watercolors, and that's how I started out, with small watercolors. And then I got bigger and bigger, and so there was like 3 by 4 feet, the paintings or panels. And I'm looking forward to when the farm opens and I can go back and get some painting done. I think they might in the next month. I know some more stores are opening and doctors are opening. I'm being careful though too, because I just want to be safe. And
Yeah. Not a bad idea to actually get my neighbors to supply me with flowers. I could trade them for prints of the flowers.
oh my God, don't give that away. I'll bring you flowers. It's a good idea though, because I'm sure you have neighbors that go to Whole Foods and just
Sure.
say photograph, what you have, what you're getting, and you can say that one in the corner.
I guess, yeah. But I actually they have made like runs for me, food, and I actually have traded prints for food.
That's nice. That's
So,
one thing artists can do, which has always been kind of a wonderful thing, to be able to give someone a gift of art.
yeah, sure. It always helped to be like next door neighbor to Picasso.
How did you start doing photography, Hank?
My mother was in the business, actually. She was
Okay.
an assistant to New York photographers in Miami.
Wow.
And she also owned a modeling agency at that time in Miami.
Okay.
And so she would assist Mark Shaw, Howard Zeef, who became a really big Hollywood director later on. And that was in the 50s, mid 50s. And then in the mid 60s, actually in 1968, I went to see one of the Mark Shaw, who was a great commercial photographer in New York, and Top Life magazine contract photographer. And I showed him my portfolio of my personal work. And he says, don't go to school, don't major in this in college, just
Wow.
get into the city and get to work. And so I came to the city and I started to do photography for the Open Theater. And then I started to assist photographers, and I was a freelance assistant. There were only a handful of us in those days who did freelance assist, and we all worked every single day.
That's great.
And so I worked for some of the top photographers, but it was like I'd do a day with Larry Freed doing a
Oh my
Newsweek
gosh.
cover, and then a day with Henri Damon doing a Time magazine cover.
Right.
And I mean, it was just one day after, and then I would do lots of work for Josef Karsh, who was Karshavato, a great portrait photographer.
Right.
And I worked for about a dozen photographers for a lot of years. It was great,
Wow.
really great.
An extraordinary education.
Yeah, it really was a great education. And I never did go to school for photography.
Right.
So, I don't know, I took to it like a fish to water, though. So,
right.
I guess artists can hyper focus. So we can be complete idiots and everything else, but we really know our art.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah, and I'm amazed that my students actually want to come to class and study it with me. But they love it. But what they said that they like more than anything else is my enthusiasm. They say that's contagious. So a lot of them come, they want to learn how to use the camera, but I can't help but show them great photography. I show them a lot of photographers' work. I show them a lot of painters too.
Yes,
Yeah.
your depth of knowledge of art, and it just transcends all media. And
well, if you want to show Rembrandt lighting, why wouldn't you show Rembrandt?
right.
So, and then I couldn't get them to do portraits for the longest time. It was driving me nuts. I could not get my students to be interested in doing portraits. Like they're afraid to photograph people. But when I said, let's do Rembrandt lighting, they were all for it. They thought that was a great idea. So then now we're on to John Singer Sargent's lighting. As long as I tell them that we're going to work on a lighting scheme, then
that is great.
The people.
That's terrific.
And you've seen the result. I mean, you've been the subject of one of our Rembrandt classes.
It is really interesting.
Yeah.
I know when I was growing up, my mom was an amazing artist. I did a lot of drawing until I was about 7, 8, 9. And then I started looking at her work, which was just incredible, of people and portraits. And I just stopped doing it. I went into music until I graduated high school. And then I went 2,000 miles away to college at the University of Colorado. And I immediately started doing art classes. And I had catch up to do. So I was taking a lot of art classes, drawing the figure, drawing from life, and it took me a while, but I always did photography along with that. And then I went back. I transferred to Syracuse University after a year break in Boulder after 2 years. And for me, I had the best of educations in that I had liberal arts education in Boulder with humanities and some of the best teachers. And then I really focused on art in Syracuse, printmaking and painting. And it's been incredible to be able to have a life in art. Yeah, nothing like it.
Yeah. You know, I don't know, Marjorie's staying mum here, but I'm really talking more to Marjorie than to you about, you know, what you and I do together. So, you know, I photograph a lot of paintings by different artists because they really need high quality paintings. And I used to do this professionally. I would shoot fine art for publication all the time. So that's how I ended up doing yours. But it's a real treat, and it's very helpful for me as a photographer to really be able to photograph somebody's canvas and have a lot of time to look at it. You know, as opposed to, you know, just, you know, when you look at it in a gallery, you move on to the next picture after a couple of minutes.
That's
but
right.
Spending hours getting all the tones ready for printing, you really get to know that image.
Right.
To me, that's been a real treat.
Wow.
And so it's been really nice photographing your work and being able to really look at it a lot.
It's been incredible for me to have someone be able to do that, because more and more you need to have access to technology with digital images of your work.
Yeah.
And you can paint, you know, paint for years, but to get a good enough image with the right lighting and the color is the challenge. So it's wonderful to have that.
That's the German in me, the perfectionist. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Thank you so much, Maude and Hank. This has been wonderful listening to you talk and listening how a photographer, you know, your feeling towards a painting, and a painter and the painter's feeling towards a photographer. You see how all of these different ways of working are really intertwined in many ways. And it's been very interesting listening to both of you talk about your relationship that you've had for a while and how you
and we're always talking about art. I mean, even before this, I mean, a couple of hours ago, I said to Maude, I sent her a text saying, "Oh, you got to watch this little 7-minute video on the 10 exciting facts about Vasily Kandinsky," right? That's the thing we're doing all the time. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's terrific.
Okay, well, this has been nice.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Yes, thank you
you
so much for participating in this. I'm sure that our audience at Michael's Aiken Gallery will love to hear this discussion. And as I said, I'll put a piece of your art up that's a representation with the video so that people can have that to refer to as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Take care.
thank you and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.